Hello, everybody. Today we saw The Gentleman. So, Aidan, what is the plot of The Gentleman?
The Gentleman is a British gangster movie. It basically follows the story of a small British weed empire. Well, not small, but run by Michael, who's played by Matthew McConaughey, and his wife. He's trying to get out of the business and is looking for a buyer, trying to sell to a other guy. He just wants to leave the weed world behind, and it has all the stuff you'd expect from a gangster movie, killing and betrayal and twists and turns, and it's framed through the lens of a corrupt journalist who's trying to sell the story as a movie. So Connor, what'd you think of The Gentleman?
I thought The Gentleman was a pretty great movie. Like you kind of alluded to, it had a really unique framework where the movie mostly took place through recollection from this journalist screenwriter character who followed this whole conspiracy and kind of filmed it and figured everything out in order to try to extort Matthew McConaughey for money. But it really builds on the character. It adds a lot of suspense. I really liked, I'm not sure the actor's name, and I can't remember his character's name, but the one that he was talking to the whole time, the second in command dude, the
Ray.
lieutenant, Ray.
With the beard, Ray was really
He kind of reminded me of Tom Hardy, but he was really good for the role.
I was thinking that too.
Like, he was really great in the role.
I loved everyone in this movie.
Everyone in this movie was great. Yeah.
I really liked Colin Farrell as the coach.
Yeah, the coach and his group of they're like a little group of gangsters that they're not gangsters, but
they're not gangsters in like the mob sense. Like,
they basically
like Matthew McConaughey characters, but they're like American gangsters. They're like a bunch of hoodlums who film rap music videos of their crimes and
But all the characters in this movie were really fleshed out and had nice personalities. When you described the plot, you did say it follows Matthew McConaughey, which on a base level is a way you could say it. But I feel like the main character of the film is Ray.
Yeah,
more than anything.
You're right.
Or maybe the main character is the guy who narrates it. I guess he's more of a narrator.
The journalist is the narrator.
It was
Ray is the protagonist.
It was
Michael is.
What was the fucking character's name? It was something.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey's character is Mickey, not Matthew. Matthew was the guy trying to buy his business.
Right.
Fletcher,
that's it. Fletcher was kind of the narrator for the story. And I just liked the conflict. I liked the conspiracy. It seemed really well written, and there was a lot of layers to everything. And when the story continued after Fletcher's original story, it seemed really nice. I like the analogy Matthew McConaughey's character kept using about like the lions and the dragons.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. I liked that it was interesting to see kind of the passive aggressive war between Matthew McConaughey and fucking Matthew.
Yep,
trying to buy his fucking empire. I thought that was a really cool dynamic. Just kind of like how they both they didn't seem super trustworthy of each other, but just the way they do business, like, is very cordial and friendly, despite the fact that you can tell they both are kind of plotting against each other secretly.
Yeah. I liked the, one of the primary antagonists of the movie is Dry Eye. He's part of the Asian gang.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot too.
Well, it was kind of cool seeing that, like, the greed kind of undid everyone. Matthew McConaughey is really the only character acting out of...
Not greed.
I mean, there's a level of greed there, but he's selling his business at a low evaluation considering the appreciation it would see, and he kind of just wants to get out of the game and step back, where everyone else in the movie's kind of trying to.
He's the only one not backstabbing everybody.
Are kind of trying to backstab and kind of take into his territory. And it's a fascinating setup for a movie.
Yeah, Mickey and Ray are the only ones not backstabbing people. I mean, I guess they kind of are, but
the casting in this movie was fantastic. And I do think Matthew McConaughey, in the right role, is a great actor. Like, I thought he did pretty good in this. He was kind of flat. I feel like a lot of Matthew McConaughey roles, it sounds bad, but Matthew McConaughey is a great actor for characters that make him kind of seem like stern and manipulative, like kind of planning.
Yeah, you're right.
And I thought it was a very good pick to pick Matthew McConaughey in there. He kind of has that wise but like still arrogant look to him, which I think worked very well for the character. Yeah. And all the other casting was great. Like, it felt really believable.
I loved everyone in this
even
movie.
Characters you're like, oh, I've seen them in 700 movies.
Ray
you're
and
still
Fletcher
like, they're great,
and Coach
and you
especially
buy their
were just fantastic.
Yeah.
I also liked how they, a lot of mob movies kind of feel like they try to step out of the present day and be kind of timeless feeling, because that's how The Godfather feels. But this one felt modern, and it was it kind of walked the line of being like funny and serious at times. It was kind of goofy, and there was times when it was funny, but also it had like those modern day elements, like Coach's little gang being like a modern type American street gang, and they're
hoodies.
Exactly. Like that.
Which are like American gangsta-boos.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Gangsta-boos?
Yeah, pretty much.
But I
you just know they filmed the rap video after they raid Mickey's weed farm,
which was a weird pacing choice, because he's like,
I don't know, I liked it.
I thought it was funny, and I thought the editing was great.
It's funny because like you just know there's some low tier rappers in Atlanta and some who've done that exact same shit. Probably a couple thousand of them breaking into someone's house and stealing their watches and shit, and putting it on video and rapping over it.
Right. I did think it was a little weird that Matthew McConaughey saw the video and that's when he learned about his weed plant getting taken over. Would you think he'd learn that right away?
Yeah, it was
but they
a
had time to
but
record everything, edit it, film a rap video, perform the rap song. That seems fairly specific to the thing. I mean, there's a lot of inconsistencies, but obviously there's a point where this movie didn't feel like it had to be like the most realistic gangster movie. It felt like it was just kind of trying to be a fun gangster movie.
Yeah.
So obviously I can kind of ignore it. It also kind of ignored the trap. It was kind of like a mixture of like a white collar crime movie and a gangster.
Yeah, kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, and also kind of like.
I don't think it had much
Not
inspiration
like
from Wolf of Wall Street. What I kind of appreciated is it feels like white collar crime, especially post Wolf of Wall Street and gangster crime, are like a lot of those movies fall into the trap of let's rip off Martin Scorsese. Like Billionaire's Boy Club, that shit ripped off Martin Scorsese.
Yes, it did.
90% of gangster movies rip off Martin Scorsese, and they all do it shitty. Guy Ritchie went into this movie and said, I'm going to make like a white collar gangster movie, and I'm just going to do it my way. Which is appreciated, because I feel like with a genre like this, it's really easy to just rip off Scorsese and call it good. I mean, even Joker kind of just rips off Scorsese. Like,
kind of.
Yeah, it does rip off Scorsese so far that
subtle about it.
I feel like they would have had to just put Scorsese as a producer on that movie, otherwise they would have got their asses sued off. But it definitely, like, I feel like this movie could have fallen into the Scorsese trap. But I mean, Martin Scorsese's the only Martin Scorsese, so most of the time you watch it and you're like, that's a Martin Scorsese ripoff. Yeah. It's the same reason, like, okay, now this is kind of off topic, but like a lot of Scorsese ripoffs happen. And the same thing with, what was that fucking movie?
Like all the shit that rips
not
off
Billionaire
Goodfellas.
Boys Club.
War Dogs.
War Dogs is also a ripoff of Wolf of Wall Street. Fucking, goddamn, what's that movie called?
Billionaire Boys.
Not Once Upon a, is a, that stupid, Hotel Rwanda. Hotel, El Royale Hotel.
That felt more like a knockoff.
No, that was a
movie.
Tarantino ripoff. But I'm saying I hate that so many directors are like, they go to film school, they go through it, and somehow some studio funds them. Like,
And
you
they're like,
know,
okay,
how do you not bring up, like, it's going to be like Quentin Tarantino with its own twist.
Oh, I'm sure
But then
that's
it's
exactly
just Quentin
what
Tarantino.
I'm sure that's exactly what was said at the pitch meeting. I had no doubt
Like,
in my
it's
mind.
like a genre to rip off Martin Scorsese, and I feel like people are going to start doing it more with Tarantino as he slows down on films, but I just find it so ironic. Like, you have, like, that. Good thing no one rips off Stanley Kubrick, because that'd be too hard.
Well, yeah, most directors don't have that level of autism
Yeah.
to shoot the same scene like
I feel
900
like
times.
I feel like
somebody's-
competent
because there's,
directors
like, a
could
carpet
rip
out of
off
place.
Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese pretty easily. The problem is you can't do it very well. But the point is, after that long tangent, they can't do it as well as the original. So what's the point? That's what I'm going for. But aside from that tangent that was somewhat irrelevant to our video, I did appreciate that they didn't take the easy route of following the gangster movie Bible that fucking
Yeah.
was written by
Wasn't
Martin
yet another-
Scorsese and fucking
Wasn't yet Coppola.
Coppola.
Wasn't yet another Godfather Goodfellas clone.
But I feel like people rip off
Casino clone.
Scorsese more than fucking Coppola.
Yeah, they definitely do. Every gangster movie since Goodfellas came out has been a Goodfellas ripoff.
Basically. Now every movie that has to do with white collar, I don't think anyone even cared to make movies about white collar crime until fucking
Wolf of Wall Street. And then they're like, okay, War
or at
Dogs,
least it's like a new
Billionaire's
level.
Boy Club. Billionaire's Boy Club's really horrible.
Billion-
I love Colin Farrell though. He was like the one memorable part about the shitty Harry Potter spin-off.
I forgot
Fantastic
he was
Beasts. Yeah,
in
he
that
played
shit.
He played Grindelwald, and then at the end of the movie, he transformed into Johnny Depp for some reason.
Because Johnny Depp.
And then Amber Heard
How
cut
would
Johnny
you
Depp's
feel
finger off.
like if it's like your character's secretly just Johnny Depp in disguise? Like, wow, so my entire character is just here to.
You get to be in the most successful film and book franchise of all time. Oh, but also you're just Johnny Depp in disguise.
I don't know about
Why
that.
would he even disguise himself as
I don't
Johnny
know if
Depp?
you could call yourself the most. I don't know if you could call
Okay,
yourself
obviously
film
it's-
and book.
It's
Book
not the
for
most
sure.
successful thing ever
Far
because
from
Pokemon
film,
exists, but
Far from
it's-
film, but
it's
book,
like
yeah.
top 5.
I don't even think it's top 5 franchises.
The framing device in the movie was super interesting, where you kind of got Fletcher as an unreliable narrator up until the point where he's done catching us up on the story, and then the story just picks up after that.
Well, the story's fairly corroborated, but you can't really tell what's real at first. Because first it's really framed to be a movie.
You know, there's points where he straight up says, "I'm just guessing this is what happened," and
Right.
I mean, I know we're supposed to take that as face value, as like this is what happened, you know. But also, there's like those points where it'll be like, and then Matthew McConaughey whipped out a gun and shot them all in the face, and he's like, "Okay, I was exaggerating for the script," you know. Stuff like that.
Right.
And they kind of have a little bit of fun with that a few times. I think pretty much everyone in the movie put out a really good performance, even minor characters like Matthew McConaughey's wife and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought were all doing really good jobs. I thought there was a lot of good chemistry going around, even between like villains and good guys. Maybe you can call them good guys even though they're like criminals.
Matthew McConaughey is kind of framed to be a good guy. For some reason. Like, you never see him, like, attack anyone that's not a drug dealer.
The only
And
person...
they, like, frame him with, like, a level of honor that the others don't have.
Yeah, you kind of, like...
I guess he accidentally kills, like, the Russian... His henchman accidentally kills the Russian...
Well, he talks about morality with, like, George, the head of the Asian crime family, about how he sells weed because he doesn't have to have people's deaths on his conscience because the Asian gang deals heroin. And so there's like a level of morality and honor to him that the other bosses in the movie don't have, I suppose.
Curious what you think. Do you think they'll do... They kind of, like, hinted that there was a sequel. I don't know if that's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. They didn't really... Like, it definitely stands on its own.
I think
it definitely stands on its own, but do you think it could do a sequel? Or do you think it would be better just to leave it at this?
I think it'll be left at this. I think that was kind of a gag, because at the end, I guess this is kind of spoilers, but I don't think it's that bad, but I'll cut it out later if it's too bad. But at the end of the movie, Fletcher is pitching his script, which is basically the entire story of the movie, to to Guy Ritchie, who directed the movie, to make it into a movie, the movie that we were watching. And usually the meta stuff gets pretty cringe in movies when you go like that meta, but I thought it was pretty...
Based on the framing device for the movie, it worked.
Yeah, it kind of worked. It was kind of fun. But I think it was supposed to be kind of like a gag, because at the end he's like, you're not supposed to know what happens to Matthew McConaughey's character, so that you can tease a sequel. And I think it was just kind of a gag at how studios just like intentionally set up sequels. I don't think a sequel would really work. I think it was just kind of like poking fun at the idea of sequels.
I don't know if the framing device would really work for a second time.
Probably not.
No, I really dug it. The only thing is, like, there's some good cinematography in there, but I mean,
I thought there was some cool stuff.
It was shot like it felt really studio lit. I would have liked some more like creative lighting, but at this point, it's kind of just a nitpick. I thought the movie was above average. I wouldn't call it like super great, but I'm sure it'll end up being one of our better films we've seen this year once we rank it out at the end of the year.
I thought the cinematography was pretty good for the most part. Maybe
for the most part.
Maybe a tad plain, but there's some shots that were clean. I mean, I liked. I don't know if there's anything I liked in particular. I did like seeing the smoke.
I liked like the pot. Oh yeah, the opening credits was really cool.
Yeah, the opening credits with like the smoke rings and stuff. I also liked getting to see smoking on camera. We don't get enough of that anymore.
Right.
I know that seems like a weird thing to say, but like nowadays movies are like so scared of showing smoking. You can only show smoking in R-rated movies. And so you never see people smoking a cigarette, and it feels fucking weird, because in real life people smoke, but then you see movies and it's like no one ever smokes, no one ever does any of that shit, but in this movie people are lighting up joints constantly, and Fletcher even does smoke tricks at one point where he does the ghost and sucks it in, and like you don't see that in movies much anymore, and I kind of appreciate that. I thought, I wouldn't call this movie a straight comedy, but it definitely kind of tended to be funnier than... It wasn't like laugh out loud jokes funny, but it was kind of like subtly humorous and kind of like...
I thought Fletcher was kind of the comic relief, but he did it right.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of funny Fletcher parts, but they were kind of like a subtle humor.
Well, I think Coach and his gang were also kind of funny. I think it was really subtle, like...
And even when they're like chasing down the gangsters. Like, not the gang, like the, like, little, like, street thugs or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They're like more of an organized crime family, but you still have, like, those, like...
all the kids...
marijuana dealers or whatever.
Yeah, they're chasing them all down, and... I like how Coach kind of gets dragged into having to be a gangster because the people he trains in his boxing ring get into trouble, and so he's kind of forced into being a gangster to repay that debt. And he says that he'll do 3 jobs for him, and then he'll be out, and then at the end he does something else for him, and he just walks up and he's like, 4, There's subtle stuff like that. It's like, it's not like laugh out loud funny, but it's kind of like subtly being a little bit comical with it.
I feel like
I appreciate the subtle humor that's not like over the top Marvel quipping or...
Another thing I thought about with the kind of like how they present Matthew McConaughey's character to be a little better. Like, he seems more forgiving but clever, and I feel like that's something they kind of try to push, because like Coach's gang, not really gang, because they're not really a gang, but like the street kids he mentors, were the ones who robbed the marijuana plant, I guess, first.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a lot of movies, they probably would just be like, in a lot of movies, they'd probably just be like, and then they killed the people who did that.
Yeah.
But in this one, they're kind of just like, yeah, that's cool. You can just repay your debt. Like, it seems like they kind of, the threats seem more political than like, I'm gonna shoot you with my gun.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of interesting.
Well, Matthew McConaughey's character is also the only one who has like a genuine connection with someone, because he has his wife, and his wife is she's a side character, but you can tell that they have a real connection.
Yeah, that's
and everyone else, it seems like everyone else,
well, I would say like,
outside of maybe like Ray and Matthew McConaughey.
But what about Coach and his gang? I feel
Coach
like
and his gang a little bit, but
I feel like there's a lot of loyalty from, even though
there
they're
is
hired
loyalty.
gun at points, acts like, or like the fucking Ray acts like he doesn't have a connection with Matthew McConaughey at times. It's clear they're kind of like close to the point where...
You're right, but Matthew McConaughey and Ray and his wife... Matthew McConaughey, Ray and his wife all kind of have a genuine connection. And like Coach and his gang, even though his gang is kind of stupid, they like do things because they think it's going to benefit the coach. But everyone else in the movie, like the guy he's selling to, Matthew, and also everyone in the Asian gang, George and Dry Eye.
Because
all
Dry
kind of
Eye
seem
was
like
kind
they're
of
just
gonna
like
inherit George's gang, and
they all seem like they're kind of just
eating
selfish and like
themselves
they don't
away.
have any real connections. They're kind of just like ruthless and it's all business to them.
Yeah.
And Matthew McConaughey's characters, like Matthew McConaughey and Coach, are like the characters who have real connections with other people.
And that's part of the reason I assume they were willing to work with Coach. I think it was implied they knew him from earlier or something, maybe? I'm not really sure. But it was, because even like the little thug kids that work under Coach saved Matthew McConaughey later. Just because they respected Matthew McConaughey, I think.
That's not what they were doing. They were trying to kill Matthew McConaughey so they could get Coach out of his situation. They were very loyal to Coach, but they were also stupid.
I missed that. That's a pretty good reason.
So they were trying to kill Matthew McConaughey, but they fucked up and inadvertently saved him because they were trying to get Coach out of having to be indebted to Matthew McConaughey.
That makes sense, because, I forgot they called Coach and were like, we're going to get him.
So they're really loyal to Coach, but they're also stupid.
That's funny.
And it's funny. And it works.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, actually. Yeah, no, it's just, it's kind of a movie that, like, if not done correctly, could have been really boring, but they did it in a way that made even, like, kind of, like, white-collar crime. It's like something that could be very action-packed. It's like, oh, I'm going to kill this snitch, and then they're shooting people. It does pace itself. You don't see that many people, like, die. Mm-hmm. It isn't like every 2 minutes Matthew McConaughey gets in a big shootout. It's somewhat realistic, even though it's not fully grounded in reality, it feels.
Well, the movie had a style, too, but it was really subtle.
Right.
There's the music video is a good example of it. How, like, the music video feels like it's exaggerated, but it's also, like, realistic. Like, they have all these fight scenes that are kind of, like, over the top, but it's supposed to be, like, they filmed their fight when they were raiding the marijuana plant.
Right.
And then they turned it into a music video. And it's, like, stylish, but at the same time, it's supposed to be stylish in universe, so it's not like, it's not tacky like Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, aka whatever the fuck it used to be called. And there's other like subtle stylish moments that are a little bit, I guess a little bit fantastical, like the chase scene where they're they accidentally throw a guy out the window, and they show the guy trying to pay off the debt, and then they cut away for a while, and then they come back to that, and the guy falls out the window, and the chase scene is a little bit stylized, where there's like dramatic music and they're all running around. It's cutting between them,
Right.
and it plays up the goofiness a little bit, where you know, it's kind of comical. It's kind of a comical chase scene. Not exactly like fucking Abbott and Costello or anything like that, but you know, it basically ends with him opening the door to his van and just like door checking a guy on a bike.
Right.
You know, so there's like, it's a style to it. There's a style to the whole movie, but it's not like an over the top style. It's a very subtle, grounded style, but you can still feel like, if you're familiar with Guy Ritchie, you'd be like, oh, this is a Guy Ritchie movie, you know? The same way when you watch like a...
Aladdin.
Maybe not Aladdin. That's more of a... that's a corporate
more
piece.
Of a studio movie.
But I'm talking like...
Tell Guy Ritchie, put
you know,
a camera at screen.
If I had seen every
Will Smith.
Edgar Wright movie, and you sat me in front of a new Edgar Wright movie, and I watched it, I could probably pick out that Edgar Wright made it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of... His style, Edgar Wright is the same way, where it's not like a flashy style, but there's like a thing to it. And that really makes the movie stick out in its own way.
Aiden, you know what else is really cool about this movie? It's older than Star Wars and it's been in theaters longer.
It's older than Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, and it's been in theaters longer. Oh wait, Harley Quinn's probably in theaters for another like 4 days.
No. Harley Quinn will be in theaters at least 3 more weeks. You gotta give it its month, dude. It's a month. Granted, it's not gonna be in the big theaters for any longer. IMAX pulled support for it. It's done. It's going back to Bad Boys. Knows what the black folks like. You rather appeal to the black folks than no folks like Birds of Prey, you know? But at this point, I believe anything. Because 2020 is the year of movies that I was like, yeah, that shit's never coming out in 2016 when I heard about them. And now I'm living in 2020 and I'm seeing Birds of Prey, Sonic the Hedgehog, Bloodshot, Black Widow, Snake Eyes G.I. Joe solo movie, Morbius, Untitled 2020 Spider-Man project. Okay, so what did you think of The Gentleman?
I loved The Gentleman, honestly. I thought it was really fun. Certainly not a perfect movie, but it's lighthearted, fun. Every actor in this movie I thought was phenomenal. I don't think there was a single person given a bad performance in this movie. And it kind of had... It toyed with what a gangster movie is by being kind of playful and fun with it. And I just kind of really enjoyed it overall. Connor, what do you think of The Gentleman? Gentleman.
I thought The Gentleman was a very good movie. I'm very wasted right now. But I thought it was unique. I haven't seen a movie like The Gentleman. I'll probably never see another movie like The Gentleman. It was just a really fucking good time. And I'll probably buy the fucking...
I've heard The Man Called Uncle is really
digital.
good.
Well, I mean, I might give it a try, dude. Guy Ritchie, my favorite actor, Henry Cavill.
Because I remember
he's good in Mission Impossible.
People would always talk about...
Aiden, would you recommend the gangster one?
I think I already recommended it.
The Gentleman.
Yes, The Gentleman is very good and you should watch it. Connor, would you recommend The Gentleman?
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a good-ass movie.
I think we already did our recommended, and then we just
I
did
think
them
you
again
did,
because we
and
got
then
off
I
topic.
never got to it, but okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bye. Turn it off.
Wait,
I'm fucking
hold on.
trashed.
The movie had smoke tricks in it, so I get to do at least one smoke trick.
Better not leave that in. You fucking better not. I'm just kidding. I don't care. I'm fucking blasted right now.
Dragon Ball
it has
Revolution,
to sell in
baby.
America, which is
Dragon
why
Ball
we have
Evolution.
Dragon Ball Evolution.